Hey there, welcome to the DFS Build NBA edition, Saturday edition for the DraftKings main slate. I am Kevin. I'm going to walk you through the slate, hopefully help you win some cash on this weekend. Happy late Thanksgiving to everybody. Been away from the videos for a little bit, enjoyed time with family, but here we go, getting ready to win some cash at DK. If I help you out in any way, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and come and join us in Discord. Discord is 100% free. If you want our premium core plays for everything that we do, just $5.99 a month. For that, dfsbuild.com, you can access that. And right now, if you're a new user to Sleeper, use the code BUILD, B-U-I-L-D, and get a 100% match on your first time deposit. All right, let's get into it. We're going to go team by team. A lot of injury stuff to look at on a Saturday slate here. Bulls and Pacers both played last night. They faced each other in Indy, 4-point spread, really nice total, fast pace, no defense. So this is definitely a game we will want to stack up on. The real question is going to be other news on this slate and how we want to react to that. I kind of think, like, going into this slate, the Pacers and Bulls, a lot of guys stood out as really good plays. And now I'm kind of thinking, if this slate is going to have those options get a little bit overlooked, that's super appealing. That said, we'll have to look at the slate as we get closer to lock. We do still have quite a bit of time, but Josh Giddey looks amazing. Josh Giddey's coming off a really nice 57 fantasy point outing last night. We just know he has an immense ceiling, 72 fantasy points over here against the Jazz several games ago at this point. But I mean, Kobe White's probably not going to play because he played last night. He's questionable. Obviously, if he is in, that dings Giddey's upside just a little bit. They do have a couple other guys that are nicked up and may not play. So he has a really good projection, pushing 10K here. I think you're going to be looking at him versus maybe Cade Cunningham, so to speak, up there. If Cade's in, Cade also played last night. If Cade's in, Cade is the better play just because he's only $500 more, and we just know he has a better floor and ceiling. And he's in a really good spot too because Miami plays really fast. So that said, Giddey looks great. If people are going to flock to Cade, that does change it a bit for me. If Cade's going to be mega chalk and you can get potentially a similar play in Giddey for way less ownership, I will be interested. I liked him a lot yesterday at 5% ownership. He smashed. He hit at 57 fantasy points. So he was good. Cade was just better. I just think on a slate like this, if the ownership is going to go there and we can feel pretty good about that being the case, we can leverage it if we want to. So Giddey looks good. Vooch at 8.1 against the Pacers, who are not a scary defense on the inside. That looks pretty good as well. Going to be tough to really prioritize that, though, for reasons that I'll share as we get going here. But hey, if you want to play Vooch coming out with almost a 40-point fantasy projection against the Pacers, I don't have a problem with that at all. If Kobe plays at 7-7, I think he's viable, and I don't think he's going to be owned at all. I just don't think that's something I'm going to do. Shooting guard has options, and it in particular has pretty good value. So I just don't find myself getting there. But I think he's a totally fine play because it's such a good spot. He's probably going to miss, which boosts Trey Jones a little bit. I would assume he has a Q tag too. He doesn't have a Q tag here on Rotor Grinders, but last I saw he did. And they have Kevin Huerter as well. So if we don't have Kobe White, you can certainly make a case for anybody who's active, whether it be Trey Jones, Io, or Huerter. I don't think any of them are musts. I think there's better value, but they would be in play. Matas Buzelis against the Pacers. He's fine at 6-1, just not like an auto smash play here. There's just better plays at power forward as well. But across the board here, really nice total, really good defense environment. The Pacers are a team we definitely want to attack. I think if I had to just pick one play, it's definitely going to be Giddey. But if you want to talk yourself into Vooch or some of this other value, if Kobe White ends up missing, like we think he will, then there's nothing wrong with that. On the other side, we should have a lot of interest in the Pacers as well. And Andrew Nembhard, we got to keep an eye on him. Questionable, miss yesterday's game. If he is again out, that opens up quite a bit of value. I think there's value here that we can consider anyways, but if he's out, that opens it up even more. So Benedict Matherin's going to look really, really good again. He got there as a scorer yesterday, 20 real points, but he just doesn't really do a lot else most of the time. So that is potentially chalk we can go away from and just hope that, either he doesn't get there as a scorer or he doesn't do much else besides, his scoring. That said, 6'9" with almost a 40-point fantasy projection. That looks pretty darn good. And the Bulls matchup doesn't get much better than that. Siakam at 8-7. He was great against the Wiz yesterday. For his price, almost 50 fantasy points. He's been hovering right around that for quite some time now. So as long as this game stays close, nice matchup with the Bulls. No, there's nothing to not like here. So he looks good once again. Obviously, both these teams being on the second leg of a back-to-back set is just naturally something we have to consider as far as like, oh, how could these plays fail? Well, they could be a bit tired after playing yesterday, so it's always something to keep in mind. TJ McConnell did not play that much, though, only 19 minutes. So while he's normally a guy that I'd be a little bit worried about on a second straight game, 4.5K for a really good permanent guy against the Bulls, it just feels like a good play. I think there's other value, and there are a lot of expensive guards that we should want to, be interested in on the slate. So if you want to go against McConnell, not the worst thing in the world. He's just point guard only eligible, so you can't really slot him at a shooting guard or anything. It just gets tricky. Like if you wanted to stack up with other value, because there is other value on this slate, and you wanted to go get Cade and Giddey and somebody else from like the late game or something, it's going to get pretty tough. Like you then have to, there's a decision point. Either you have to get away from one of those stud guards, or you have to fade McConnell. As it stands, I do want to try to get to McConnell, but since he comes off the bench and he did play last night, I'm not going to force it. I'm not going to say he's a core play that you have to play. Plus his price tag did come up a little bit, and now is at 4.5. Tracy Walker, 4.2K, just a decent play. Obviously, if Nemhard's out, he's a little bit safer. Jay Huff started last game. I think he had like 26. No, he had 30, I think. 30 fantasy points against the Wizards. Similar matchup against Chicago. It's pretty soft. So if he starts again at 4K, it looks like a really good value. Him and Walker, I guess even to an extent, McConnell, they're not like super safe plays, just because they don't usually max out their minutes. And they're not the highest usage guys in the world. Like Mather and Siakam are going to be the high usage guys in this offense right now. But they look good. Like if you want to slide them in there and go spend up elsewhere, I have nothing bad to say about those options. Just a low floor possibly. All right, moving on here. Brooklyn Nets are going to be without Michael Porter Jr. once again. Terrence Mann is questionable. They already ruled out their rookie guard, Igor. So he's not going to play. Nick Claxton at 6.5. He's okay. Don't mind it. Don't love it. Noah Clowney at 5.5. I think that's pretty good. I don't mind that. He was pretty good last night with, I think, 34 fantasy points. So he's going to keep starting. He's going to have a little bit of usage, a little bit of extra usage with no MPJ, 23% or more usage in 3 straight games. I like that. So I think Clowney remains a really good play. Bucks are not, there's kind of middle of the road matchup. I would imagine there's a decent chance Giannis sits. So the defense is going to be even worse than it has been. So Noah Clowney looks pretty good. The question is going to be, do we want to pay 5.5 for Clowney when we can go down, and save a 1.5K with Huff, or somebody else that I'll mention in a little bit as we get going here. With Mann questionable and Igor Ademin out, Tyrese Martin is going to be basically a lock here at 3.7K. I did end up shying away from him a little bit yesterday because he didn't start. In this setting, given the bodies that they're missing and the role that he's been having off the bench anyways, I think he's still a really good play at 3.7. I would just imagine he get a little bit more minutes and a little bit extra usage, and he's going to look like a smash at only 3.7K. Davion Sharp, Zaire Williams, they're fine. Like if you want to go there, that's okay. If Terrence Mann is in, I think I said Trey Mann before, but I meant Terrence Mann. If he's in at 4.2K, he could solve our shooting guard problem if we want to. I think Tyrese Martin does that for us, though. I think that is going to be the main shooting guard I'll be playing on this slate, and I would suggest you do the same. Some of these other guys, like the Nets, still have bodies. So even though MPJ opens up a lot of usage here by not being there, and they are down a couple other guys potentially, they still do have some guys. So it's not like we should just blindly play all the Nets we can handle. I just think Clowney is okay. Like I don't mind getting to him at all. And Tyrese Martin is just the one net that I find myself getting to a lot. Hey, if Giannis is in, we can play Giannis. That's fine. Yesterday, only 28 minutes. Wasn't really going to be needed there at the end because the game got a little bit out of hand. But 62 fantasy points in 28 minutes. Like if you played Giannis, you weren't sad about that production, and you were hoping for it to be like a massive ceiling game, and it kind of almost was. So hats off to you for that. It just didn't work out. 11.5K on a back-to-back. If he's even in, it just feels not amazing. I think there's better plays, but it's still the Nets. Like the Nets are not going to stop you inside. It is Giannis. So if he plays in this spot, I think he would be a really good play. I wouldn't have a problem with it. I just think it's pretty likely he doesn't play. And then he'd probably still be limited even if he does. If he's in, I'm not very interested in any of the other Bucks. KPJ may be playing in this game as well. Did he play last night? I don't think he did. No, I don't think he did. So this would be his first game back. So KPJ could impact Ryan Rollins. He could impact Kuzma. He could impact AJ Green. I think if Giannis is out, you can play just about anybody here with some level of confidence. Plus, if KPJ is indeed playing, I don't think he's going to play a ton since he's had lower leg issues. So he's not really on my radar, especially at 6.4. But if Giannis sits, Ryan Rollins, Miles Turner, Kyle Kuzma, and perhaps even Bobby Portis would all be okay plays, just not guys that I'm really racing to go get. I just think there's other guys at guard I'd rather get to over Rollins. If Giannis is out, Rollins obviously gets a massive usage boost. And we've been playing him in that 8K range anyways. So I think he's definitely going to be in play against the Nets if that situation presents itself. He's just not the guy that I'm going after right now. All right, Pistons in Miami. Obviously, the Heat play really fast, so this could be a shootout. Got to keep an eye on Cade Cunningham. Karis LeVert is questionable. Jalen Duren already ruled out. So I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked at this point if Cade does not end up playing. He played last night and went off with 74 fantasy points in 39 minutes. So second leg of a back-to-back set, would not be shocked if he sat. So keep an eye on that. If he's in, though, in such a fast-paced environment, Cade looks like a great play. Like I was saying, if you're comparing him to Giddey, really like Giddey, but for what, $500 more, Cade is just the better play. There's other guards on this slate that we can consider for sure. And I'll get into that in a second as far as why we would or wouldn't want to do that. Isaiah Stewart at 4.9 with no Duren looks like a lock. 4.9. I know it's Miami and Bam Bam. Like, I don't love targeting bigs against Bam Adebayo, but I just think game environment and minutes and usage and price all roll into a pretty nice little value play here. So I'm going to get to him quite a bit. And I would rather get to him over Noah Clowney at this point. Ozar Thompson and Tobias Harris kind of eat into each other. The minutes are kind of capped at the moment. Duncan Robinson, you can always take a shot in a revenge game here against the Heat on the road, and just this game getting kind of intense and fast paced. Maybe he hits like 5 threes or something. You just never know. I think at shooting guard, since it's not that great of a position, I think it's viable. It's just obviously he needs to get hot and he needs to hit a bunch of shots. Jenkins at 4.5 would be in play for sure, and basically a core play if Cade does end up sitting. And then, of course, everybody else gets a massive boost if that ends up being the case. I think that's pretty much it for the Pistons. So, all right. So Miami side, Tyler Hero is back. I think he played like 34 minutes in his second game back. So 32. So like, I'm not that worried about the minutes thing. Detroit's not really that fun of a matchup. I think obviously Duren not being there makes their defense less scary. But Hero at 8K, you're kind of like paying kind of a premium for a guy who's still kind of limited and not the most amazing spot. I think he's fine and nobody's going to own him. The projection and the whole situation just doesn't look amazing. Same with Bam. I think 7.5 is pretty darn cheap for Bam, high usage guy. I'd be more inclined to be interested in him if like Norm Powell or somebody ended up sitting. I feel like Norm was questionable, so just keep an eye on that. If him or like Wiggins or somebody end up taking a seat, then we could be a little bit more interested in Hero or Bam. And like, hey, if we're going to pay all that for Cade and if we're going to pay for a chalky Isaiah Stewart, we can certainly consider it a Heat run back. And the nice thing is Bam and Tyler are not like egregiously priced, so we can get access to their ceiling and their usage without it costing an arm and a leg. Davion Mitchell 4.9 with Hero back. Not really psyched to do that. Not psyched for the prices for Norm, Wiggins, or Ware. Those are just guys that if you get to and you want to play them, that's fine. Just not going to be guys that I'm going to go out of my way to get. Pelicans are big 8-point favorites, or underdogs rather, in Golden State, as they should be with no Steph Curry. Being there does impact it a little bit as far as like, I'm sure the Pels would have a decent chance of keeping it closer than if Curry was in. Trey Murphy's questionable. Keep an eye on that. Zion did tick up to 32 minutes in his last game, so that limit is picking up. Golden State is obviously not the most friendly matchup for DFS purposes, but if we're going to get 32, pushing 34 minutes out of Zion, pretty interesting tourney play. The floor is going to be low just because of the setting here, but Zion can obviously, he can totally wreck games. And at 8.4K, he's not priced out to the point that we would not want to consider him in tournaments. Like if the Pels are going to stay close, it's going to be because Zion's having a pretty good game. So I do think he's an interesting GPP play, not a safe play by any means. He does not project very well. Derek Queen at 6.6. His minutes have been jerked around a little bit. 16 and 22 minutes in the last 2 games. Obviously, the Warriors like to go small. So could we see a game where he's only playing 15 and 20 minutes? Absolutely. I think he could nuke, though. I mean, he's a great permanent guy. He's been great for most of this rookie season he's had. Prices come up a little bit at 6.6. Nobody's going to be on him, though. So especially since he's center only, I think he's interesting for tournaments. But obviously Zion being there also kind of cuts into his ceiling a little bit too. Jeremiah Fears at 5'3". That's fine. I don't have a problem with it. Not really eager to go after the Pels here. It's just not a really good spot. On the other side, no Curry. I still don't really love Podziemski though. Like naturally I would, in a vacuum, like Jimmy Butler and Podziemski, Moses Moody, like whoever benefits from Curry not playing, I would have interest. But just on this slate, like the prices are up a little bit, the projections aren't great, and you do have real blowout risk here. If you want to get to Podziemski at 6'8", I mean, it's not the end of the world. Nobody's really going to be on him, which is kind of interesting. I'm not getting there. I think the only Warrior that really stands out is going to be Jimmy. I think he's the direct pivot off of Siakam. And if Siakam's going to be like 25, 30% owned, and right now Jimmy Butler's coming at like 17, I think that's a pretty interesting pivot. Blowout risk. And he's had, times like these where he should be high usage and high ceiling play, and he just doesn't really take advantage of it. So my guess is we see things a little bit more spread out, and or some random Warriors guy is going to pop off here. But Jimmy is a good play in a vacuum. If you want to take a chance on Buddy or Moses or pay a premium for Podziemski, you can totally do that. I just don't think those are great value plays. Denver, this is the situation that's going to mess everything up, or we can take advantage of it and exploit it quite a bit. So Jokic, midday questionable tag. I don't know. I feel like he just kind of tends to play through all of his ailments. But if Jokic is out, Jamal Murray gets a massive boost. All the other Nuggets get a boost. And Valanciunas, specifically at 3-3, would be the value play of the entire slate. So Taylor, if you're new to the show, Taylor and I do videos together. And if you're not new to the show, then you know exactly who I'm talking about. But Taylor in Discord was saying it'd be kind of interesting to go into the slate with Nick Richards, who is a popular value. And then if Nick Richards, or then if Jokic is if he gets ruled out, then we can just pivot to JV. And I think that's a really good plan. I think obviously Richards at 3-4 for the Suns, he looks like a fair value, kind of no matter what. Certainly risky. But if you get stuck with Richards to close out the slate, I don't think that's the end of the world. And then if Jokic is out, you can just pivot to JV, who would then become the smashiest of smash plays. And potentially, if other people aren't planning for that, maybe he gets a little bit overlooked because of that. These are just things we want to kind of plan for. Taylor was saying he'd kind of go into the slate with Jokic in mind as well. I don't know if I'm going to do that. But certainly if you can get an unowned Jokic to cap the slate, that is appealing. The only problem is you do have to sacrifice like Giddey and Cade and those kind of guys, or Siakam or Jimmy. If you want to go get Jokic, it's not going to be easy. And then of course we have the Murray situation too. So you can definitely go into the slate playing for Murray, or even playing for like a Murray versus Devin Booker situation if you want to. I think if that's where interest is going to start going, I think just firing up Cade and Giddey and Siakam, like stacking up the Bulls Pacers game and just playing the slate like we originally thought we wanted to, I think that might be the way. And then if Jokic is out, I can still play the Richards JV thing. And one other way to attack the slate I think that could be interesting is going and attacking a high usage Dylan Brooks, or attack with Peyton Watson, who's only 5.5. And by the way, small forward is brutal. Like small forward's the worst position on the board. If Jimmy Butler was actually where he should be, and that's at small forward, that would make this a little bit easier. Of course, then it would kind of lock me into Jimmy Butler, which I don't necessarily want to do. But this is a good price. No Aaron Gordon. Peyton Watson has been pretty good, 32 plus minutes in each of his last 6 games here, or is it 7 games there? So like he's got a ceiling of 55 fantasy points, 43 there, and his floor has been pretty decent. So I think he's a guy we can trust. And then if Jokic is out, he just gets boosted even more. So I like the idea of at a minimum going into the final game of the night with Peyton Watson and the whole Richards JVL situation for sure. You can also consider Cam Johnson at 5'3". Tim Hardaway Jr. feels a bit thin, but hey, if Jokic is out, those guys are going to get, they're going to get steamed a little bit, but they're definitely going to get usage. Jamal is the main benefactor if Jokic is indeed out. So you can certainly, play for that as well. Go put, you could do something like put Jimmy in the 8:30 game, put him in your utility spot. And then if we get the news before that second to last game locks, then you can pivot off of Jimmy to Jamal Murray, who I think in that situation would then be the better play. But both of them look pretty good, so you can certainly talk. You're talking anybody either way as well. Bruce Brown also questionable. If he is in and Jokic is out, I think he's an okay value. If he is out, that just boosts THJ, Cam Johnson, Peyton Watson even more. I was talking about Dillon Brooks on the other side. Denver is not the worst matchup in the world. That game does have a really nice 232.5 total and only a 4-point spread. Obviously, that would lean more Phoenix's way if Jokic is out. Devin Booker looks pretty darn good. Is going to go super overlooked on the other side. So I don't mind that at all. Again, I am leaning towards the Bulls, Pacers, and Cade and some Nets and that kind of thing. I'm leaning to firing up my stacks in the first part of this slate and hoping people get overly ambitious with the Denver news. But if you want to play for that, Devin Booker as a comeback from, Watson, Murray, or even Jokic or JaVale, whatever the situation may be, I don't think he's going to be very owned. So I think he is an interesting tournament play for sure. Plus, he's a little bit cheaper than Giddey, who could end up being pretty popular still. Gillespie could be impacted by the return of Grayson Allen. Got to keep an eye on that. Grayson is questionable. If Grayson is in, I think 6'5" for Colin Gillespie feels like a lot. If Grayson remains out, I think that still feels a little bit steep, but I think he looks a lot better, obviously. Dillon Brooks, though, pretty darn good usage. I know we don't like to play Dillon Brooks, but 20+% usage rate in all these games here. He does have a little bit of a ceiling, and nobody's really going to be on him. Rightfully so, I guess, but small forward is not a fun position. So if you want to pay up over Peyton Watson, or you don't like any of the punt plays, because by the way, the punt plays don't look great, then you can certainly do that. Mark Williams played recently, I think, was it last night they played? Yeah, they did against OKC. So he's a rest candidate. And if he is indeed out, the Nick Richards at 3.4K, whether you want to swap in JaVale or not, he would look pretty good as a standalone value. You could really risk it and just play both of them. I don't think I would do that. But if Mark Williams plays, he would be needed for his size against Jokic. He didn't play that much last night, 22 minutes. And he's been really good. Decent usage lately. We know he can rebound. We know he can block shots. We know he can score inside. So I think he's an interesting tournament play, especially if Jokic ends up being out. So that'd be interesting. Just not a priority on the slate. Royce O'Neal at 5'6". That feels a little bit, a little bit pricey if Grayson is back. And Grayson pushing 7K in his first game back, if he indeed does play, that feels bad. And Jordan Goodwin at 5'7" would be way too expensive, possibly either way. But if Grayson's back, I definitely wouldn't want to do that. If Mark Williams is out, you could certainly look at Oso Ighodaro as a pivot away from what could be a chalky Nick Richards. And that would be kind of interesting if you were going to just go for it all and bet on Jokic being out. And if you wanted to go, JaVale in one slot and then Nick Richards in the other. And then instead of playing a chalky Nick Richards, you pair JaVale with also Ighodaro and hope that move goes your way, because it certainly is a risky one for sure. All right, that is going to do it for me. Hopefully this helps you out. Hopefully it pushes you on some plays that you weren't really on before. Hopefully solidifies some that you already did like. It just gives you an idea of what kind of strategy you can start building, because I think the Denver game is really going to be the linchpin for this whole thing. It's going to decide how this slate ends up going. We're going to have to either be on Jokic if he nukes, or we're going to have to adapt and find a way to get to that game a little bit if we get a situation where Jamal Murray and Devin Booker and maybe even Peyton Watson and JaVale are all going off. That said, I love the idea of kind of ignoring that outside of the Richards JaVale situation and firing up these early guys who just all look really, really good. All right, that is going to do it for me. Hopefully this does help you out. If it does, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and come join us in Discord. Thanks for watching, and good luck.